A rift between Washington and Kyiv, a crisis of European security. Amid all the chaos and uncertainty, could Keir Starmer be the unlikely hero? Welcome to Bridge the Channel. The entire diplomatic world has spent the last few weeks trying to save the world as we know it. And a central figure in all of this, an unlikely hero, is Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK. How has Keir Starmer managed to be such a central figure in all diplomatic efforts to continue supporting the Ukraine? And will he be able to maintain his central role moving forward? Most journalistic reports and commentaries agree that Keir Starmer has been a central diplomatic player in what has been a flurry of activity over the last few weeks in trying to maintain support for Ukraine and trying to find a common Western Euro-Atlantic solution in the current crisis. Starmer has managed to reconcile three very important goals, but also three partially contradictory goals. He has managed to keep himself as an important interlocutor with the Americans and has managed to keep Donald Trump on side as much as this is possible. He has led efforts and he has tried to mobilize people to continue supporting Ukraine while negotiations are ongoing. And he has also made himself an important player, an important partner, an important interlocutor to the EU as the entire Europe is trying to develop some kind of European security response to the development of a peacekeeping force and military presence in Ukraine. Even more importantly, most reports agree that the UK played a crucial role in mending the rift between Washington and Kyiv after the traumatic meeting between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky in the White House. How has Starmer managed to make himself such a central player in all of this? Perhaps what works against him domestically actually works to his favor internationally, precisely because he is so procedural, he is so uninspiring, that actually makes him a very legitimate interlocutor with so many different actors who have so many contradicting interests and agendas internationally. Perhaps most importantly, Keir Starmer looks like somebody Donald Trump doesn't need to be afraid of. And this, in today's context, perhaps is the most important thing. Can this balance be maintained in the future, and can Keir Starmer remain such a central diplomatic player around the Ukraine crisis? Perhaps yes, but I actually see three potential pitfalls that might actually complicate the diplomatic activity of Starmer and the UK moving forward. The first one is the question of when we're going to have peace in Ukraine, when there's going to be some kind of an agreement between the Americans and Russians, and of course something that the Ukrainians themselves will accept in order for war to stop, at least for a moment. If this doesn't happen anytime soon, the UK right now is of course at the forefront of pushing people to mobilize people to support Ukraine. But will they be able to do this actually if the war continues and the Americans withdraw support from Ukraine? Is the UK going to be in a position, a fiscal and economic position, to continue sending aid to Ukraine, to continue supporting the EU doing this? Second, what are going to be the security parameters for the deployment of European troops in Ukraine to keep the peace if and when peace comes? The UK really wants some kind of American security guarantee to underpin the presence of European troops, but the Americans have said they're not willing to do this. Will the UK be willing to contribute fully to a force that might end up being under some kind of EU leadership? In the context of Brexit politics, this is actually very shaky ground for Starmer. And then finally, third, let's not forget the Donald Trump factor here. The US always has the capability to drive a wedge between the UK and the EU. There's always the economic parameter here, Trump's beloved tariffs, and of course the UK's need and wish to have some kind of free trade agreement with the US. If this thing intervenes in all of this, the UK may find itself in the position that it really wants to avoid, having to choose between the United States and Europe. So this was another episode of Bridge the Channel, analyzing a very complex geopolitical picture. There's so many moving pieces right now. Most important of them are the negotiations between the United States and Russia over the future of Ukraine. And on the basis of the outcomes of those negotiations, important decisions will have to be made by the UK and the EU about the future architecture of European security. Until next time, take care.